Welcome back, folks. It's week 4 of the high school football season. I'm Artie Decker. This is PSN, and this is the place to be for your high school football information in the state of Alabama. Let's look back at last week and just a few scores. We have Auburn winning a close one over Leah Montgomery. That game, I believe, was actually 4 versus 9. So a top 10 battle there. Uh, T.R. Miller rolls quite easily in that one. Looking here at Austin and Gaston City, as we spoke of, the Titans would have a hard time finding that first win versus the Bears, and Austin takes them out quite easily. Let's look at Central Phoenix rolls over Prattville, not a real shock there. Sparkman and Grissom, told you this game would be closer than what you thought because Grissom has improved, and it showed, but Sparkman was able to pull it out in the end. This was a huge shocker as Hewitt Trustful actually knocks off Hoover. I mean, I'd give you $1 if you told me this one was coming. I just never foresaw this happening, especially in the manner in which it did. Looking here, we have James Clemens rolling over Huntsville, not a big shock there. Thompson avoids the hangover factor and takes care of business against a good Oak Mountain team. Mountain Brook takes out Spain Park. Spain Park continues to struggle. Looking here into 6A, let's look at Abbeville and Buckhorn. I thought this game would be close, and it basically lived up to it. Abbeville pulled away late and got a big region win in that one, bouncing back from getting beat by Fort Payne the week before. Pinson Valley played Chalkville. I expected a classic. I got a classic. Pinson Valley able to pull that one out 28-21. Huge win for them. Looking forward here, let's look at, speaking of Fort Payne, they hit a pass on virtually the last play of the game. I believe he caught it with .4 to go. Hail Mary, maybe 40-something yard pass. Huge win on the road. We picked May Jemison, thought it would be a close one, and it was a close one, but Fort Payne able to find the magic and slip out of there with a huge road win for Coach Elmore and company. Hartsville Muscle Shoals, it lived up to its hype also. This potentially could be a region title game. I believe we picked Muscle Shoals, but Hartsville were able to sneak out of there with a big win. Hazel Green and Lee Huntsville just blew up the scoreboard, 78-35. That's just crazy. No defense to be found in that one. Wetumpka, Opelika, I told you Opelika had a really good shot to pull the upset, but Wetumpka was able to sneak out of there with a 2-point win in that one. St. Paul's, nice little win over Blunt. Probably the biggest win they've had in 6A. It was also a region win to boot. Looking into 5A, you got Boaz taking out the Valley Cubs. We called it. We said we're riding the Boaz Pirate train, and it was able to get the win in that one. Huge region win also. Ardmore takes out Arab. That was probably Arab's best shot to get a win, so that kind of went by the wayside for him. Looking down the list here, let's look at Crossville and Douglas. We spoke of this could be Crossville's best chance to get a win. They actually take advantage of it and win easily, which, as I said, could be the only win of the year for the Crossville Lions. Madison Academy Brewer, this game was a little bit closer than it looked. It was only 12-7 at halftime, but the Mustangs able to come out in the second half and just dominate. The Saints continue to struggle. Mortimer Jordan just kind of takes care of business on them. Etowah takes care of Sardis, another very impressive win for the Blue Devils. Gunnersville shocks the world, so to speak, against a good little Scottsboro team. I definitely did not see this coming, so congrats to Gunnersville on that one. Looking here, Tallahassee actually knocks off Carroll. That was a 9-4. Tallahassee had gotten upset the week before. Maybe we're looking ahead. Who knows? But we're able to pull off the upset and get the big win. Looking into 4A, Anniston, nice, another, good little win for them. Hanley takes care of Booker T. That's a nice win for Coach Strain and company. Looking on down, let's look at. This is an interesting story. St. Paul, St. John Paul, they're 4-0 now. First time in school history they take out Fairview in that one. Hillcrest Evergreen, nice little win as they get the shutout. Jacksonville, we picked them to win this game, but did not expect the margin of victory that they had. A very impressive win over Cherokee County, 56-21. As I said, you were going to blow the scoreboard up, and we definitely did. North Jackson wins it in a wild one over DAR, 75-41. But I will say this. I expected that 75 from North Jackson, but this is a North Jackson defense that had not given up a point all season long, and they, give up 41 to DAR. So it kind of makes you wonder about that Chiefs defense. Hoax Bluff, very impressive win over Aniana. Let's look on into, UMS Wright, actually another shutout. What a shock there. They're not a really explosive offensive team, but defensively, pretty much as good as it gets, it seems. Looking on, Thomasville, nice, impressive win over Bayside Academy. I believe Thomasville was 4 going into that game. Geraldine just takes care of business against a, struggling Brindley Mountain, 49-0. Fultondale, a nice bounce back win over a region foe, over Pennington, 35-6. Gordo, nice little win there. Oakman must be down from what I'm looking at because they're usually very competitive in that game and were not to be found in this one this year. Looking on, let's look at Pisgah New Hope. This is a game that kind of tells me a little bit about Pisgah because Pisgah had scored 50-some points in every game they'd played thereabouts. In this one, we're only able to get 13 against a good defense. You can say what you want to overall about New Hope, but defensively, they're pretty stout. So that's a telltale sign maybe of who Pisgah really is going forward. New Hope just can't find any offense, or they could be, a little more dangerous than what they are. The big battle here, we had it wrong. Yeah, we did the unthinkable, and the biggest mistake we ever can make, and that's pick against Steve Smith in Piedmont. That was a big error, and we blew it on that one. But they actually take out Randolph County 3 versus 1 matchup, 27-22. So I would imagine Piedmont will stay at 2 and Sachs will go to 1, but who knows? We'll look at it later. Looking on, speaking of Sachs, they get an easy win over a good little Walter Webber team, so that just kind of tells you how good they are. Pike Road, another win. They're 4-0. First time they've had a program in forever. Just craziness to be 4-0. Susan Moore, this game was actually 7-0 going in the final minute, and Plainview had played, lights out defense, just controlling the game, and I believe Susan Moore scored with 22 seconds to go and tied it up, went into overtime. To my understanding, they both scored in the first overtime. The second overtime, though, Plainview had ball first. They went to kick a field goal, they missed it, and then Susan Moore was able to pop it in. So that's a huge win for Susan Moore as far as the region goes, and a pretty crippling loss for Plainview as far as their playoff hopes go. Could have been a huge upset and a big win for Plainview, but just wasn't to be. Looking forward here, Weaver, nice, impressive win over Pleasant Valley. Westminster continues to roll over a struggling Lexington. Aliceville, nice win over Sulligent. Sulligent, as we spoke of early in the season, we expect them to fall hard, and they're starting to really show that. Cedar Bluff, very impressive win over Sandrock, 26-0. We picked them, didn't expect that kind of margin, so congrats to Coach McCorder and his Tigers. Um, Ohatchee, nice impressive win over Cleveland in that one. Cleveland, a pretty good little team. Uh, this was, as we spoke of, our game of the week, so to speak, coming into the season, or rather the week. Um, this final score doesn't really tell the whole story. I mean, you look at it, if you weren't there, you think, oh, Fife rolled over them, that kind of thing. But this game was really close the majority of that time. But, you know, uh, it started out that fast, quick start, which Collinsville needed to get going. I believe it was 10-0. The big momentum shifter of the whole basically game was that 10-0, and they kicked it off to Anderson, and he took it back 99 yards, and you could just see the energy come back into Fife, and they were able to get the running game going. And I thought, as we talked about it last week, the depth issue was huge, because as the game wore on, Collinsville started sucking some wind and really struggling. And Fife, able to just kind of replenish and move them in and out, were able to just outlast them. Jones played great, but there were a lot of plays where the receivers, if they catch the ball, they could have been some touchdowns. I mean, Collinsville dropped maybe 2 or 3 touchdowns. Some missed opportunities, maybe a little too big of a stage for them, just a little too fast. And the old veteran Red Devils take care of business and get a big win. And, obviously take control of that region at this point, and Collinsville drops to 2. Eider, we picked this game last week. We really did not want to pick section, but just for some reason just had to do it, as we always do in this matchup. And we're wrong once again. And Eider shows up, plays physical, and maybe takes advantage of the fact that Fife played section the week before. Maybe section was a little beat up and took advantage of that. So big win for the Hornets, and that at least keeps their hopes alive for the playoffs. Looking here, the big matchup, I believe this was 5 versus 7 or 4 versus 7. Thorsby and Lafayette. I told you this would be a back and forth, hard to call battle, and it absolutely lived up to that, as it was 18-14, and Thorsby snuck out of there with the win. Luverne just took care of business. North Sand goes to Asbury and just puts a beating on them. Addison, nice win over Red Bay. Reeltown continues to roll over a struggling Horseshoe Bend. Leroy just continues to struggle. They do get the win, though, 14-12. Let's look at, this is another game we thought would be a high score, and it absolutely led up to it. Equaled that, as it was 62-35. Westbrook just scored at will, and West End did what they could. But once again, West End gives up 60-plus points. It's just not getting any better for the Pats defense. Ranburne, another impressive win over Woodland. Donahoe, actually, this game was a little bit closer than I expected. I thought Donahoe would have a little easier time with Winterboro, but were able to sneak out of there with a win nevertheless. Pickens County, impressive win. This was a huge win for Linden to knock off Maplesville, because this was a game, to my understanding, Linden hadn't beat them in a long time. And it was a 2 versus 4 battle, I believe. Maybe 2 versus 5. But nevertheless, Linden was able to pull off the upset. I told you, I thought maybe, just maybe, this was the year, and they actually pulled it off. So congrats to them. Mars Hill just putting a beating on Phillips-Bear Creek. Mars Hill's a pretty good little team. You just keep an eye out on them as they get into some better competition. Sweetwater able to finally get a nice, impressive win. Hubbard, we talked about this game. I thought Hubbard had a little too much speed for Decatur Heritage, and it absolutely turned out that way, as they take Decatur Heritage Christian 41-20. And this pretty much puts a stranglehold on that region. I mean, you could probably make a case for maybe Faultville giving them some trouble, but that pretty much would be the last hurdle that they would have to kind of pull a shocker and win this region coming into this season. Looking on, we have Raglan just continues to struggle. That's a big win for Spring Garden over Notasulga. That's a good little Notasulga team. So huge win for the Panthers in that one. St. Luke's another impressive win. As we spoke of, Faultville just hammering Valley Head 55-6. Probably just a little too much speed for the Tigers and Coach Vincent. Looking forward here, then that definitely will set up that Faultville Hubbard, basically de facto region title game for that one. Waterloo, another explosive game and gets a big win over Hackleburg. This one we actually had wrong. We picked the improving Gillsville, but Woodville's quarterback really played well, and they were able to get a win and keeping, I guess, a shred of a possibility of maybe a playoff hope for them. Shoals, actually gets a rare win over ASD. Oxford just manhandles Charles Henderson. This was, we thought possibly Tanner would have a shot, but Good Hope just lays a smack on him. And I believe this is the best start Good Hope's been off to in quite some time. I would say somewhere around 99 since they have started out 4-0. Sylvania just continues to struggle. This game was not even as close, or it actually was closer than what the score shows. To my understanding, Gaston had the ball late. We're driving and threw an interception, and that put Sylvania on a short field, and Shavers was able to cash it in. But they just really continue to struggle. And here we are. Basically we're approaching the halfway mark. We're getting there, and they still just really don't have a clue who they are offensively. But that pretty much wraps us up for last week. Definitely have some shake-up in the polls. 7A, you got Central Phoenix City taking over that number 1 spot, and Hewitt-Trussville moves from 5 to 2 and actually has 6 first-place votes. So they really pick up a lot of confidence from the voters as possibly being number 1. Thompson goes to, or actually drops to 3. Auburn stays put. Hoover just, falls to 5. But don't sell them short just yet. I mean, you can kind of look at that game as maybe being a little bit of an emotional hangover after the big win over Thompson, putting so much into that, then having to go to a really good Hewitt-Trussville team. Maybe a little too much for them. So just don't sell them out just yet. McGill actually dropped their game 2 weeks ago, and they stay at 6. Leah Montgomery stays in the top 10 with their loss. Austin sneaks in there this week at number 10. Sparkman just on the outside there at 11. Bob Jones lost in an upset to Florence, and they dropped to 12. Prattville, got smashed, but to obviously now the new number 1 Central Phoenix. Looking on to 6A, Wetumpka able to survive, as we spoke of earlier. Still your number 1 by quite some margin. But Oxford's sneaking up on them. Pensacola Valley gets a little love this week, also at 3. Clay Chalkville holding strong, even with the close loss at 6. Hartsville moves up to 7 with their big win over Muscle Shoals. This week, St. Paul's, as we said, biggest win they've had in their new classification. They actually get some love at number 10. Muscle Shoals still hanging around there at about 13. McAdor, nobody really talking about them. I'm telling you, just kind of sneaking around. They're 4-0 before you know it. Opelika continues to kind of tumble a little bit. Looking on the 5A, Briarwood, another impressive win. They stay strong. Etowah, just kind of still nipping at their heels. Jackson, Viger, pretty much the same. Nothing really changed there. Tallahassee, I believe, moves up 2 spots. They were 9 last week after falling, so they move back up to 7. Carroll falls to 8. Madison Academy there at number 9. Boaz almost cracks the top 10 at number 11. Winona falling out to about 12. Mortimer Jordan, roughly about 15. 4A, UMS Wright, obviously, I don't understand this, how they're not unanimously number one, but Hopes Bluff, somebody's still believing in the Eagles. They're at number 2. Hillcrest Evergreen, lost early, but they're sneaking back up there at number 3. Jacksonville, told you to keep an eye on them. They're still rising as the Golden Eagles have just continued to play so well at number 7, and Delusia at number 9. North Jackson finally cracks the top 10 this week at number 10. Anniston, about 16. 3A, this is the first time since 68 that Sachs has been number 1. So, congrats to them. But Piedmont, right there on their heels, only 8 votes behind and only 6 votes of first place. Thomasville getting some love this week, got 2 first place votes, and they're at number 3. Randolph tumbles to number 4 in the close loss. Fultondale still hanging around at 7. Taylor Miller continues to rise at number 8. Westminster just barely outside there at 4-0 at number 11. Let's look. Susan Moore actually gets a little love this week also at about, we'll call it 17. So they're quietly moving up. As we spoke of, Fife with the impressive win over Collinsville. They are almost unanimous. Somebody is seeing what I'm seeing. Ohatchee gets some love this week with a first place vote. Good little team. Thorsby, maybe kind of solidified their spot as they move up to 5 with that win over Lafayette. Cedar Bluff continues to rise at number 7. Leroy just hanging around at 6. Lafayette didn't fall far at number 9. Reeltown, impressive as always, but we've yet to really see them play anybody good. It'll be interesting to see when they do play somebody that can play with them, and as they stay at number 3. Addison's sneaking up there at number 11. Ramburn moving up hard at number 12. Collinsville tumbles from 10 to, we'll call it 14. Aliceville moves up some. Colbert County gets some love. They move up. Looking on into 1A, Lynette still your number 1. 23 first place votes, but Linden actually gets 6 this week. Brantley gets 1 also. Marengo quietly moving up at number 3. Maplesville actually tumbles to number 5. Elba hanging in there strong at 7. St. Luke still at 8. Pickens County at 9. As I said, it just doesn't get any deeper than this 1A classification this year. Sweetwater holding on at number 10. Faultville getting a little love. They're at number 12. Hubbard moving up the board also at 14. Morris Hill, another very impressive team so far, at 15. Donahoe getting some love. Spring Garden actually gets 1 vote this week. So they're all moving up. And now that we've talked about last week, let's just do one last thing before we get into this current week, and that's give out our team of the week. And it was a really tough choice because, you had the big win in 1A for Linden over Maplesville, and it was very deserving, but you just can't deny the fact that Hewitt-Trussville knocking off Hoover and also scoring 56 points on them, and I believe that is the most points that Hoover has ever given up. So, huge accomplishment for the Huskies if Hewitt-Trussville haven't been, their dreams smashed so many times by the Buccaneers. So we will give them our team of the week for last week. But going into this week, looking at our games, let's look at Gadsden City and Bob Jones. Bob Jones coming off an upset loss. They're not going to be very happy, and they're also hosting, and it's just not going to get any better for Bart Sessions and his Titans. They're going to lose again. I believe this will be 8 in a row, so it's just dark times at Gadsden City. Hewitt-Trussville should roll over Spain Park. Hoover should bounce back, take out Oak Mountain. James Clemens and Florence, that'd be a good little game there. Probably give the edge to the Jets, though, to sneak out of there with a road win. McGill-Toolen should bounce back in that one. Huntsville Sparkman should have an easy one on that one. Thompson rolling over Tuscaloosa County. Too much Tunga Vailola in that one. Athens and Hazel Green. Athens coming off a nice, maybe a little bit of surprising win over Decatur. And now they'll roll into Hazel Green. I think they'll take them out as well. Looking on, we got Clay Chalkwell going in Gardendale. Gardendale just, good as always, but I think Clay Chalkwell maybe just a little too much for them, and they should get the win in that one. Coleman going into Abbottville. Abbottville, normally it takes out Buckhorn a little bit easier than what they did, so that lets me know that maybe they're not quite as good as they were last year. So I'm going to take Coleman in that one. Let's look at that Leah Huntsville Decatur. I would imagine Decatur will bounce back this week in that one. McAdoo Selma. McAdoo should get another win quietly, as they have done all season. Most of the shows, May Jemison. May Jemison coming off that heartbreaking loss. Most of the shows as well coming off heartbreaking loss. I like most of the shows to bounce back and get the win, maybe in a blowout. Looking on, let's look at Pinson Valley and Oxford. This is a huge, huge matchup. Maybe the biggest in the state. I've had a lot of people tell me they're taking Oxford in this thing, and I understand it. Oxford's good at home. They've been so good defensively, but I'm going to take the best player on the field, and I'm going to say that Bo Nix and company go in there and sneak out with a win, just like they did last week versus Clay Chalkwell. Let's look on to it's like a Crossville going into Death Valley. Alexandria Valley Cubs, they will definitely bounce back this week and take out Crossville in that one. Douglas Sardis should, bounce back after a beatdown last week. Just take it all out on Douglas this week. East Limestone, a really good team, and they roll into Scottsboro. Scottsboro looking to bounce back, but I kind of have a feeling East Limestone might be just a little too much for them, so I'm going to take East Limestone in that one. Etowah, Southside, Southside made some improvements over the last week or so, but it won't be enough. Etowah's just too much for them, and should get the win quite easily in that one. Maybe another shutout, because Southside really struggles to score, and Etowah has just played some lights out defense. Gunners will go into Arab. A few weeks ago, really couldn't tell you who could win this game, but Gunners will coming off a nice win over Scottsboro. Definitely think they will get win 2 in this one over Arab, as they just continue to really struggle. Looking on, let's look at that Viger-Jackson game will be really good. That is a 3 versus 4 battle, I believe. So just a huge game in the South if you're down that way. Probably have to give the edge to Viger in that one, though, in a close one. Winona, Briarwood. Winona, showing some issues this season. Going into Briarwood, I like number 1 to hold serve and get the win at home. Looking on, let's look at Andalusia, Hillcrest, Evergreen. This is going to be a really good game. If you're in that area, you definitely want to check that one out. Andalusia, really the only loss they've had this season was the number 1 UMS Right. Hillcrest, Evergreen, good football team. But I would probably say that Andalusia will probably sneak out of there with a road win in that one. Looking on down the list, we've got Cherokee County going into White Plains. I like Cherokee County to bounce back and get the win on the road in that one. UMS Wright hosting Clark County should be an easy one for Simon Smith and the Bulldogs in that one. DAR looking to bounce back versus West Morgan, and I believe they will. looking at Holt's Bluff and Anniston. We've talked about Holt's Bluff. Haven't really had a test. This is going to be their first real test as they go to Anniston, who's playing pretty well. I'm really tempted to go ahead and pick the upset, but I think Holt's Bluff might just have just enough to sneak out of there with the win and hold serve. Jacksonville going to Cleveland County. Cleveland County just doesn't play a whole lot of defense, and Jacksonville scores a lot of points. Look for a big margin of victory in that one. North Jackson going into St. John Paul. This is normally a blowout, but this is two teams that really improved really fast. Both really struggled last year, but I do like North Jackson to win it, but maybe a little closer than you think. Looking on, let's look at Priceville and Fairview. Just a battle of two struggling teams. I would probably give the edge to Fairview in that one. Randolph should get another easy win there. Looking on, let's look at that Brindley Mountain. Susan Moore coming off a tough win over Plainview last week. Maybe a little bit of a surprise. They should get back on track, probably in another blowout win over Brindley this week. Clements, they're improved, but they're rolling into Westminster Christian. We've talked about them all season. They're like a buzzsaw, and that's exactly what they'll do to the Colts this week. Looking on, we got Geraldine going into New Hope. This is a dangerous game. I'm not saying they're going to pull the upset, but I'm saying that, Geraldine better be careful going on the road over there. New Hope, I don't believe, is giving up over 20 points to anybody. So it's going to be a tough test for Waldrop and that dog offense. But I do like Geraldine to get the win. Looking on, we have Holly Pond, who's had a pretty decent season. They're rolling into Fultondale, but I like Fultondale to go ahead and get the win in this critical region game. Pennington and Fork, I look for Pennington to bounce back in that one. Piedmont going into Weaver. This is another, after going to Wadowee last week, getting the big win, can they go into Weaver and do it again? I would say probably, but it would not surprise me to see Weaver take advantage of them coming off a big win last week and sneak out of there with the upset. Because Weaver's a really good team. And as per usual, that region is loaded to the gills. Maybe not quite as much as last year, but they're still loaded and very competitive. You got your Plainview and Sylvania battle. This was actually, Brock Bennett's question of the week. He wanted to talk about this game, so we'll go a little more in depth on this one. He says, is this going to be a blowout? I just cannot foresee this thing being a blowout either way. Both offenses are really struggling, and both are playing solid defense. So this is going to be a game kind of like last year. I believe it'll be a battle of, just physicality, and whoever can finally make a big play will win this game. And I've kind of really went back and forth on this one. This is a huge region game, not only just being a rival game, because whoever wins this game you could make a case to say that we'll take that third spot in this region, and if not fourth. So a lot to be played for in this one, because you don't want to be fourth. You don't want to have to go to Piedmont if the way it lines up, or any of these tough 3A schools that could be one seeds. So I have a feeling. Logic would say Plainview played really well last week. Sylvania didn't. So you take Plainview, but I got a feeling that Sylvania will find a way to win this football game at home. So I'm going to go with the Rams on that one. Looking on, let's look at T.R. Miller going into Bayside. T.R. Miller just improved T.R. Miller, and I know it's weird to say T.R. Miller being improved because they're predominant powerhouse program, but be a nice little test for them as they continue to try to rebuild this thing. and I believe they will get the win on the road in that one. Mobile Christian, I believe number 5, taking on number 3 Thomasville. Be a huge game there. I do like Thomasville possibly to blow them out though. Welborn should roll over Glencoe and continue their struggles. Looking into 2A, you got Asbury going into 5. That should be a laugher 5 by a lot. Addison should roll over Sheffield in that one. Collinsville and Ider. This is going to be a dangerous game for Collinsville. A few weeks ago, I'd say the blowout, but this is a dangerous game. It's on the road. You're coming off the emotional disappointment of losing to Fife last week. And then on the other side of things, you got Ider coming off a pretty impressive win over a close in talent section team, coming in with a lot of confidence. Be interesting to see if they can continue that this week and maybe pull the upset. But I do like Collinsville. Maybe not as big a margin as you think to get the win in that one. And pretty much now see any hope Ider has in playoffs. They have definitely got to get this game if they want to continue to be in the hunt. Looking on, we have. Let's look at. This will be, we talked about Reeltown being so impressive. Got Lafayette coming in there. First real test for the Rebels. And I do like them to win it. And maybe, just maybe, show their muscles off and win it in an easy fashion over Lafayette. Leroy continues to struggle going into Washington County. Washington County's trying to get back on track. I do like Leroy to sneak out of there, but probably in a close one. Ohatchee building confidence by the week, and they roll into Westbrook. This will be a nice little battle because you got two contrasting styles. Westbrook with their balanced offense, taking on Ohatchee with that run-happy offense, kind of strong arm you, and both defenses are pretty good. So, but I do like Ohatchee to just maybe control the line of scrimmage enough to get out of there with a win. Looking on, this Rammer and Cleveland is an interesting battle. Cleveland's a good little team. Maybe not a great team, but a good little team. But I do like Rammer to maybe run over them and continue their just ramsacking so far as they have gone through their schedule. Sandrock going into North Sand. This is could be a tough game for Sandrock because they really struggle to score points, and that Bison defense has been pretty stingy. So it could be a hard time for Coach Chestnut and his Wildcats to score. And I do like North Sand to win it at home in that critical region battle and pretty much douse any hopes the Rock has for playoffs. Section going into Cedar Bluff. As we've talked about all year, this is a perfect schedule to enter the fray of this 2A for Cedar Bluff because Section's a good team, but I don't think they have what it takes to get the win on the road in Cedar Bluff. So I do like Cedar Bluff to win it and continue to hold maybe just a little bit of hope of winning that region as they will stay undefeated. Looking on, we have Tanner going into Tharptown. Tharptown's not very good, so this could be the medicine for the Rattlers as they have not been 0-4 since 99, and they're looking to not be 0-5. And I know I've said it many times, but I believe they got a real shot to get it this week, and I think they will on the road. Vincent Thorsby, look for Thorsby to roll in that one. Woodland Gaston's improving, and Woodland is not looking so hot. So I'm going to take, Gaston on that one just because it's at home as they improve week by week. Appalachian Woodville, look for Woodville to get back-to-back wins in that one at home. Cherokee Mars Hill. Mars Hill has really looked good, and Cherokee has had a lot of troubles defensively. So look for Mars Hill to drop a big number on them and get another win. Decatur Heritage going into Coastal Christian. This is going to be a really interesting battle. You have a very downhill running attack in Decatur Heritage, and then you have a very balanced attack for the Conquerors. Um, Huge battle because just big critical region game. If Decatur wins it, they pretty much will lock up at least number 3 in the region. If they lose, they drop to 4. So they huge things on the line for them. But I do like Coosa. They've had a week off. You know, they kind of got run over there on the road at Hubbard. I have a feeling, just maybe a little too much athleticism, that they will sneak out of there with a huge win and knock off Decatur in that one. Donahoe going in Spring Garden. Spring Garden should win this one quite easily, potentially. Looking on, as we talked about in that region de facto game, Hubbard is pretty much run the gamut because they have played Coosa, got the win last week, beat Decatur Heritage, and now their next biggest threat to that region title being Faultville. This should be a fantastic game, going back and forth, a lot of offense, a lot of athleticism, both, especially Faultville running that spread. Hubbard also can throw it a little bit, but I just have a feeling that Hubbard's going to find a way. I like their defense a little bit more than do Faultville, and I think they'll sneak out of there with a win, and they will take this region by the throat. Looking on, we have Lynette going into Notasulga. Lynette should get the win in that one. Marengo goes into St. Luke's. This will be a good game. But I do like St. Luke's to maybe sneak out of there with an upset win behind Jermaine Brown in his huge numbers. Looking on, Phillipsburg Creek going into Waterloo. Waterloo's probably going to drop another 40 on them and get another win. Looking on, we have Valley Head going into Gillsville. This is a big game because loser is pretty much out of the playoff picture. They, especially Valley Head, they have got to get this win as they go into Gillsville. Very disappointing game last week against Faultville, and you can pretty much say the same thing for Gillsville. I thought Gillsville had a pretty good shot of getting the win at home against Woodville, but were unable to do so. So it's kind of a battle of two teams that are really struggling and not a lot of confidence between the two. But I do like Valley Head to sneak out of there with a road win in a close one and keep their hopes alive. Looking forward here, let's look at Central Phoenix City and Opelika. Could be close for a little while, but I like Central Phoenix City to kind of take control and pull away in that one. Not a lot of big battles of enter, but you do have this one right here. Before the season started, I thought Pisgah had a really good shot of winning this game, but as the season's going on, it's kind of made us say, no, not happening, because Boaz is on a roll, and Pisgah, I just don't think they have what it takes to knock them off, and I do like Boaz to roll in that one by a pretty good little margin, as Coach Luke Pruitt will take his first loss as Pisgah's coach, and probably in blowout fashion. But that pretty much wraps us up for picks. But looking at our question of the week, it's a good one. You got it from Nikita Magnum. He says, what do you think about Geraldine's chances of going ahead and winning this region? I think they're extremely good, to answer your question. I mean, they basically have put themselves in a really good spot because they know who they are. They're not a great team. They will probably tell you they're not a great team, but they know who they are, especially offensively. And you definitely could not say the same thing for Plainview or Sylvania to boot. But, they have the big battle of, Susan Moore to come up in about 2 or 3 weeks. And I believe that game is at home. So I would say that I would probably, at this point, I would pick Geraldine to go ahead and get the win in a close one. And that would definitely catapult them to number 1 in that region. and then they would just have to take care of, once again, you know, offensive deficient and offensive line just nowhere to be found Sylvania team, which I believe they could do and will do unless something drastically changes in the next few weeks. So I do like Coach Waldrop and company to finally maybe get them a region title this year. So, great opportunity there for them. But that pretty much wraps us up for the week. Go out, watch a game, have a good time, enjoy it, and we'll see you back next week. I'm Marty Decker. This is PSN saying save me a spot on the fence, and we'll be back next week. God bless.